Thank you for joining the Once Changing the World, which is India's first Future Tech Meets Sustainability podcast. And today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Adnan Yunus, who's the founder, CEO, and Chief Scientist Officer at Opus AI, a generative AI startup that's working at converting text into video games. So Adnan, really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. The past year, I mean, there was a couple of tech stacks which were at its hype cycle, extreme hype cycle, if you may say so. And then it kind of like fizzled out a bit. Being Metaverse and Web3. Web3 kind of fizzled out because of the FTX collapse, and Metaverse because of Meta's really push driving the conversation of Metaverse over here. Our money and the real world solutions still not being there, and AI has been in the hype cycle. It's seen a lot of AI winters, and then suddenly I think the game changer was Imad Mustaq. He put out Stable Diffusion, and it completely changed the world. He open sourced his platform. And for the first time, I think people got the taste of AI. You could actually sit at your home, put in some text, and voila, you got some images. And my son, who's a 7-year-old boy, started tinkering around with it. And that's the game changer. And then suddenly Chat GPT-3 jumped into the fray, and it somehow acted like a ripple effect of sorts, And then the greatest moment was, in 5 days, 1 million users, and the world is talking about generative AI. So would you first kind of, maybe start explaining what generative AI is? And B, do you think like all the other tech stacks which kind of fizzled out, I mean, do you think generative AI is in its hype cycle and possibly will fizzle out?
So let's go slightly, right? So Imad has done great stuff, right? He has done a lot of capacity building, as we call it, right? I think he took Stable Diffusion that was already there, and he really turned it into something that people could aspire to use outside of the academia or outside of the researcher, right? So that was a great thing from him, huge capacity building there. Then, of course, once the conversation got started, then other people also started coming out and try to do something, right? Of course, I think again, we haven't seen much yet in AI, all right? And especially what I see in Stable Diffusion or just what I see in ChatGPT, it's cool. As a demo, you look at it and you're like, oh my God, I wasn't able to do it before. But the practical application, I think, are still slightly further out, right? So that's our opinion. Now, generative AI is an interesting term that is being used, right? And we haven't seen this term it's literally a few months old, and it's still being worked on as what does it actually mean, right? I guess one of the definition can be that it is something that enables computers to do make something simple or something very basic into a much more complicated, almost like a close to a creation of a sort. So, write a simple, I would say, prompt and it turns into an article, or if you type a simple prompt, it turns into an image. So I think that is a kind of a moving definition of generative AI, right?
Yes, what the game changer was, making it accessible for everyone, the democratization of tech stack, because earlier it was only in the hands of these, bunch of enterprise, big tech companies, or a bunch of, high quality developers or researchers, and giving it access, opening up the access to everyone, I think, changed the game. Through the course of conversation, you said that generative AI is still not seen much of practical applications. Would you like to elaborate on that and maybe kind of open up what could be those practical applications in your head that you're talking about, which is going to come into the future?
Now, when I say that it's not quite democratization is because, so let's think about the true democratization of AI. What is AI and what can it do for us, right? Let's say that my grandmother, great storyteller, she knows everything about the entire family, right? Left, right, up, down, aunts and uncles, and history going back a century, right? Now she doesn't know how to open a web browser. She doesn't know how to, let's say, go to Hugging Face, what are the prompts that she needs to type, what are the special parameters that needs to be added, all that stuff, right? Now, imagine that if she could take all the stories and actually visualize it. Now, you would say that why doesn't she talk to her young nephew, like or somebody young in the family who can kind of help her, like, but that's kind of like that's where all the flow breaks down, right? What we envision AI being truly democratized is where an ordinary person, like an everyday Joe who's not interested in AI at all, doesn't know anything about AI, and also doesn't want to know anything about AI, and yet they are able to use complicated systems to build things, right? And we call it narrative tech, which basically means that if you can narrate something, if you can talk about something in a normal manner, how we tell stories, right? That will become the thing that you want to build. And we went, started with this exact premise. Like, we weren't like, it's going to be prompt engineer, it's going to be something in the middle. That's where we started. And that's where we're going. So Opus AI is basically exactly that. You type a story into it, or let's say that, if you, let's say, are interested in taking some old book, like, some script, let's say Mahabharata, let's say, for instance, and you're like, okay, I want to turn this into an entire movie series or an entire game where people can play, right? So by the end of that year, we're targeting that we're going to take something super complicated. It's between like something old like Mahabharata or something like War and Peace. We want to copy it, paste it, and then give it away that anybody can go and start making games out of it, or start making movies out of it, right? So that's the sophistication that will enable my grandmother or my mother-in-law or my that aunt who doesn't know anything about computers or AI to really start creating narrative. Imagine, like, on WhatsApp, you suddenly get an invite that, oh, here is a new game I created from your, I don't know, this aunt that has no idea. And then that is going to change the game completely, right? So that's what I mean by democratization.
Super. How cool is that? And I mean, the reason I do this podcast is because I meet like really fascinating minds such as yourself who are kind of like pushing the boundaries of the traditional ways of how business have been functioning so far. Everything has been top down, hierarchical, and and capitalism will not allow us to kind of break that mold out. To the true democratization that we talking about, because I think everything goes down to I mean, squeezing the juice out of the consumers, so make as much money as possible, but I think that the new world, the new bunch of entrepreneurs are asking these brave questions while not just, I mean, obviously, I mean, every business, there's you need to kind of make money, but how do you take that product to everyone and make it accessible? I think possibly it's going to play out something like how the phones did. Nobody expected the phones to be democratized, but today we don't even call it a technology. It's from a kirana wala to a chai wala. Everyone has a phone, and it's become democratized. And I think eventually that's going to be the case. And I think we need like these brave entrepreneurs such as yourself asking these deep, brave questions that how we can make this tech completely accessible to everyone.
Right.
Let's get into a little bit of backstory, because before we get into Opus AI, you gave us a little glimpse of what you're trying to do. I mean, text to video. Uh, a little bit of backstory is going to help, and then maybe you can elaborate on Opus AI and what's the plan with Opus AI.
So I mean, like, backstory is actually complicated, but let's go. Like, so myself, I'm a system engineer. I work with, like, um, big corporate, really big corporate, like NASA, like Lockheed Martin. So I contracted with both of them long time ago. Worked on projects such as Hubble telescope, such as F-16 fighter jets, these kind of thing, right? And then worked with your Ericsson, your 4G, with the General Electric kind of smart grid platform, right? These, like, super complicated, super sophisticated project, but at the same time, the kind of thing that most people don't even aware exist, right? But they kind of run the entire society that we stand on. And the other side is that my mom was a novelist. She used to write romantic novels, like really lengthy romantic novel. And I loved when I was growing up, when I was like when kids used to go out and play in the cricket and all that. I used to read story, right? So love books, love the kind of storytelling that can be done in books. Now, um, So I mean, like I've been in industry for a while, right? I would say 25 plus year now, and it always nagged me, right? And of course, in the beginning of the career, like when internet started, and I was like, okay, eventually people will figure this out. I've chosen a different path. I need to stick to my calling. But as we're going further and further, what I've kept on seeing, like a constant theme that technology is getting more sophisticated, more realism is being added to movies, more realism is being added to game, but at the same time, the diversity, the complexity of the story itself is growing shallower and shallower, right? Literally, people are, you're started for like, something, I would say 20 years ago, something super complex, and now we're just seeing like, almost like, you would not notice a difference between a game or what is going on in the world around you, right? That's not the purpose of the story. The stories are to enhance your imagination, to take you to a different world, like give you experiences that you otherwise can't, at least in my head, right? So that always bothered me, right? And since I'm a big book reader, I know the kind of stories that are out there that simply cannot be turned into movies because it doesn't fit the, I would say, business goals of Hollywood, of Bollywood, of a whole bunch of different outlets, because there's not enough money there, frankly speaking, right? So that brings us to our current point that okay, will we keep on making things simpler and simpler because there is not enough money in it, or will we actually use technology to enable humans to be a lot more creative that they need to be, that they are normally are, right? Not they need to be, but more like so normally, of course, like anybody can go and hire a studio and start making a game or a movie, and it's going to take a few years, and eventually you will have it, and may or may not work, may or may not. So the idea was that okay, people know how to narrate things, they know how to tell stories. Can we take a story and turn it into something as sophisticated as a movie, as sophisticated as a game? And when we started, people used to like say that was a cool idea, not gonna work because it can't happen, nobody has done it, no, it's not possible, right? And we were the first to actually do it and prove that yes, it can be done. And that from that there on, like we realized, so we started with this idea, right? And now we're seeing almost like a torrent, like almost like a mass movement that is taking place behind us. A lot of people who are working in big tech, small tech, doing something completely different in fintech, and they're just like coming out and saying, no, we want to tell stories. If I had this in my school, I would be able to not have to do the day job that I'm doing. I would be a storyteller in one way or the other. And that's crazy, right? Because we didn't imagine that the amount of people is that large who want to do it. So I think that's something that is really exciting to us.
Right. So is your platform live, and where can it be accessed? And what would be the capabilities? What are the capabilities at this point in time? What would be the capabilities in the next coming years?
So right now, the platform is like works real time. You type stuff and it changes. So it's literally like working as you go. So it's not like stability or like ChatGPT where you type and wait. It's you type and things are just happening all around you, and you change and it happens all around you. We can actually do a small demo if you want. This particular tool we call Opus 3D Writer. It's a, I would say, game builder for non-technical people. So people who have never built any game, don't have any idea how to build games. You have a bunch of templates you can start with. We're going to start with scratch so we can kind of exercise how the system actually works, right? So from the get-go, when you start, because I haven't written anything, the canvas is fully blank, right? So there's nothing there. So I'll start with something simple. So what this is going to do actually is going to change what the terrain looks like. So the entire land, now it becomes kind of hilly, right? So I'll add something more before we can see the winter day. So we can understand what exactly happened. So now it's become kind of snowy because I say winter, but I can change it and make it summer, and day I can make it night. And let's say I can say there was a tree, right? Now I've done quite a few things, and it's simple narration at this point, right? Actually, I'll make it morning so we can see, because right now it's too dark. So now we have a tree, we have kind of like grass that looks like summer, and it's a hilly area, right? And we'll slightly go into the scene. So I'm walking into the scene so we can look at the scene, what it looks like, right? You have your hilly area and a tree on the hilltop, etc., etc. So I'll make it slightly more hilly kind of go crazy, right? So now suddenly it's going to become very rigid, like, very, like, now you can see that it's all like, steep slopes, very steep slope. The tree is still there, but it's kind of stuck there. I'm going to make it slightly, so like, very, very normal, like not even hilly, a very little, like, hill. So now it is still hilly, and but at the same time, it's kind of like, close to flat, not quite flat. Tree I'm going to change to, let's say, spruce. Hold on. Okay. So you can see, like, I mistyped those, everything just disappeared. Now I, like, it comes back. So it became a spruce tree, let's say, was a cat, right? Now I'm gonna walk into the scene again so we can find our cat. So the cat is actually going to be behind the tree. There she is, behind the tree. Can you see it? Yeah.
Yes.
So there was a cat, there was a deer, let's see, there was a, I don't know, hippo. So all of these things, the deer appeared and a hippo is gonna appear right behind it, right? So we got our three things. Let's change it. Let's say it was raining. Okay. Now, everything is still there, and I can literally walk into the scene, and I can start exploring. And now, right now, it's raining, right? Everything is raining. I can change it. Let's make it snowing. And so now it starts to snow. And let's add some more stuff. Let's say there was a girl, right? Now, the female is going to appear behind the hippo. Let's see where she is. There she is. So right there, there's the girl. I'm actually going to move her. And the way you move it, it actually literally just take it, cut it, and bring it to the front in the text. Like, what the story that you're writing,
Right.
you just change it that she becomes the first character. So now all of these are character, right? So let's see. There is she is the first character. Then there's the tree, and then there is other characters, right? We'll go slightly more. We'll say there was a girl. So we're gonna say she was wearing a blue dress. Let's try this. Now in this case, it's gonna go back, and actually I think I have to, there we go. So now her dress became blue, and she's wearing a dress, right? So I'm just gonna change remove the snow for now, because we can't see the lighting that properly when it's snowing. So let's make it a clear day. So now we have a clear day, and we're gonna change the tree up above to an oak tree for now. Now she had dark hair and, let's see, dark skin. Okay, so we're gonna change her hair and we're gonna change her skin color so she becomes slightly darker. And then let's go close to her. So there she is, right? Now we're gonna say she had, let's see, she had green eyes, and let's keep her just green for now. She had green eyes, right? So her eyes have become green. We can't see it because it's morning, so the sun is on the other side. So I'm gonna make it evening. So sun is gonna come on this side. Now you can see that she had green eyes, right? There you go. Actually, I'm gonna match her dress too. So green eyes, green dress, and then we're gonna make her walk. So she ran behind the tree. Now she's just gonna run over there, not this point. So when I go to the play mode, she's just gonna run there, and she's gonna stand there, because I haven't told her to do anything else. So let's see. Let's do some more stuff before we call it. So I'm gonna say, instead of running, she walked behind the tree, she lay there. So now she's gonna walk there, and then she's gonna lie down, and we'll end it at that, because I think we're close to hour. So there she goes, and she's lying down, and we're gonna move up, and there are the rest of the characters. All right, so I'll stop it right there.
Super interesting, Adnan. So a couple of questions over here. Is the application open for people? What's the pricing point? Has a few companies or gamers developed anything on it?
So this is,
and
yeah.
Yeah,
Good
please, please.
questions. Let me just address it one by one so we don't lose track. So the first thing is that we're putting the sign up page live probably this week or the next. We are going to start sending beta invites. That's going to be private invites for next month. And then hopefully in the next month or so, people are going to start getting access to it. Now, this is not for game designers. This is not for game developers. This is for, again, my grandma, my mother-in-law, these kind of people, non-technical people. These are the people we're targeting, not game designer, because I think game designer already know their thing. They already know how to do stuff. We want to democratize this power to people who previously had no access to these things, right? So that's the end goal. And of course, if game designer wants to come in and start using it, we are perfectly open for it, but they are not the primary target at this point, right? Because I think they already know what they are doing. We just want to bring in more, I would say, um, more accessibility, right? Similar to what we were talking earlier, that accessibility is the main point, right? AI is about accessibility, right? Now, the pricing point we're still working on. So there'll be something on the page once it goes live. I won't be able to disclose it right now, but it's going to be super, I think, attractive to what capability people currently have, right? When you try to start doing game design and all the things that you need to do, it's going to be almost 1,000x decrease in terms of both time. Of course, you can see that you literally are just typing stuff and you're creating game, but also in terms of the kind of cost that people typically incur, right? So we're super excited about. I think it's gonna really change a lot of a lot of things for people.
Well, I think it's going to completely upend the storytelling creation and process, because so far everything has been a certain way, and here you have created a platform, and making it so simple and so accessible, maybe possibly democratizing the way how storytelling of the future is going to look like. I think I'd seen an interview maybe a couple of months back, and Imad was talking about something like this, bringing out a platform where it could be text to video, and it's still not come out yet. But here you go. So congratulations to you and your team. This looks super, super awesome. Would you be able to kind of like maybe go into the back end of the platform? What were possibly the challenges of developing this AI system?
I mean, we've been at it for a while, right? Again, all the decision, all the work that almost like a culmination of all the things that we have done in the past um, went into it. The system is basically a very sophisticated natural language parser. Pretty proud about how sophisticated it is. That it's I don't know, GPT-4, GPT-5. It's going to take a while for them to even catch up to that. How far we are, because this is about story understanding on a human level, right? Not text generation. Then there is a game engine in the front, which does all the hard, heavy lifting of showing it to the user. And then in the middle, there are a whole bunch of generators that generate different parts of system. So each thing that you saw currently is being generated by a different generator. Some parts of it simply leverage what is already being done in the game design. So we're not trying to invent everything from scratch. Other parts are something that we had to really think through and figure out on our own. So yeah, probably can write a paper on that. But yeah.
What really, I mean, excites me is that, so far, I think most of the innovation has been happening largely with the big tech. I mean, it's the big tech companies, who kind of create these really awesome tool, which is game changer, which completely goes and kind of changes the world. But this democratization of these technology, where people sitting in, any part of the world, and people such as yourself, I mean, and I feel good because, we're from a certain part of the world, and now we are standing up and being counted amongst the game changers and creating a product which could in the next few years completely upend the process of storytelling. You guys bootstrapped, and if you're not, would you like to give a pitch out to any other listeners, possibly maybe VCs out there?
We're currently bootstrapped, so we're doing pretty well. We are doing our seed round, so if there is a VC who's interested in this kind of thing, of course, but um, um, at the end of the day, we're looking for partners in a way, right? People who are actually excited about what we're doing. This is not about I guess, barging into an industry and making money. Is about more than just that. And I think there is a lot of money to be made to empower people, but that cannot be the primary purpose of what we're doing. So yeah, definitely, we're mission driven in a way.
Creativity is a big and open-ended questions, because there's a lot of these creative folks, the ones who are getting scared and seeing this awesome things happening in the generative AI space, text to image, text to video, text to songs, so there are a lot of people who are just saying, companies, not just individuals, these companies are saying, oh, what's happening, and how are we going to cope up with something like this? Are we going to be losing a job? And then there's another conversation going on with about copyrights, because there's a lot of synthetic data that's being created. This is not created by humans; it's generated by AI. A address the creative industry, creative folks who are thinking that they're going to be losing their jobs and AI is going to automate everything, and B, the biggest question, copyrights, because that's a gray area. Would you like to kind of talk a little bit about that?
Let me put it this way, horse carriage drivers, right? Horse carriage drivers were afraid that cars are coming and we don't know how to drive it, or people are going to be driving it themselves. But then suddenly there were mechanics job, there were spare parts dealer job, there were a whole bunch of things that pop up, right? Gasoline and all that. So the fears are unfounded in more than one way, I think. Secondly, copyright, I think it's going to be simply we have to move past the assets or like the product and product model, right? We have to move more towards the intellectual property model, right? So your voice, your intellectual property, you can sell it to other people to use, and this is going to be just an AI model that they can use on their own, but the royalty comes back to you. I think that's going to be where the real power kicks in, right? Your style becomes your IP, your voice becomes your IP, your likeness becomes your IP, your dance moves become your IP, and that's the model that we're actually going to for as well. So this is going to actually have an integrated marketplace where this entire marketplace is going to be powered by kind of intellectual property, original IP rights, where you're a creator, record your voice, and it just creates a entire system, a model for you, and that model then every time somebody uses it in a movie, you get paid. No work required on your part at all. So I think that's actually much more exciting than having to perform every single time that somebody needs you to. So yeah, that's what I think.
When do you think Opus AI could generate photorealistic content?
But already can. Right now it's using real time, right? So when you do real time, you have to compromise on how good it is. So once you have produced an entire sequence, then you can go and press a button and it will do it in using ray tracing. So that's already going to be possible, not right away, but within this year we'll have that okay, once you're done, click this and it's gonna render the entire thing. Slightly more cost associated with it, but it's gonna give you more photorealistic results.
Could you talk a little bit more about that, on how a common man would be able to access this technology and make a career or a business out of this?
I think a common man, let's say you're a bricklayer even, right? So bricklayer itself has a lot of experiences. They have their likeness, they have their voice, they have their style. All these things can be uploaded as a likeness, as a literally an intellectual property model for every single thing. All right, let's say that you in your movie or in your game you want to have somebody laying bricks, right? Now that person can literally record a video of himself doing his cool tricks, all the styles and everything, and then it turns into a model, a motion model, a likeness model, and then that can be applied to virtual actors, and every time people use it, you get paid, right? I think that's going to be super powerful because first of all, we made quite a few decisions on users behalf, which we knew are going to come handy. One thing is that you don't need a powerful machine to run it. You don't need some super beefy PC. You literally can download it on your Chromebook. You can download it on your phone, your tablet, whatever you have. And if you can run TikTok, if you can run YouTube, it will also run this which will give people a lot of power, right? If you have a phone, instantly you're a creator, right? You no training, nothing required.
Yeah. So, Adnan, really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. Would you like to share your roadmap, your future roadmap? How do you see Opus AI and generative AI? I mean, changing, upending the way we create and content.
I think narrative is going to be the big thing for everything we do, right? So people are not realizing it. It's not going to be prompt engineering. It's not going to be data science. It's not going to be anything, right? For most people, majority of the humans going forward after the post AI revolution, I think they're going to be all going to be narrators. We're going to have to tell a lot of stories, and those stories will play. If you're an architect, you're going to be telling a story about how the house looks like, what are the features you want, what kind of style it has. If you're I would say an engineer, like you're going to be telling story how the process needs to operate, what are the constraints and all that, and it's all going to be in the form of a story. And super cool, super exciting time, because at that point everybody will be able to understand what everybody else is doing. Jargons, all these complicated terminology, they are going to be much fewer, and storytelling is going to be the heart of everything. And that's I think if you're thinking what's next for you, I think whoever is interested in that, work on narrative, right? Because that's what we're betting on. That's what we think is going to be the future for almost the entire human race, right? So really polish up your storytelling skills.
Where can you be reached at if people want to reach out to you?
So my email is adnan at opus.ai, ADNAN at opus.ai. And yeah, definitely feel free to send me an email. Other than that, I'm mostly very active on Twitter. So feel free to follow on Twitter. Feel free to reach out there. So my DMs are open. LinkedIn is also, like, if you want to. And other than that, yeah.
Adnan, really appreciate you taking time and being a part of the podcast. I think you're doing something which is completely going to change the world on how we create content. And kudos to you and your team. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. And until next time, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you, Adnan. Really appreciate this.
Thank you so much.